A very good evening to you all around the country and indeed the world. Welcome to round 2 of Apex Rear Wings Caterhams season. We're here in North America, Virginia International Raceway, having made the virtual flight up from South America, where we raced last week in Brazil. My name's Stairs, bringing you all the action alongside me with Ben Rhodes.
Hey Stairs, thanks for having me back again. Yes, good to be back. Good to be at Virginia Raceway, so that I actually know and can pronounce, unlike Curitiba last week.
Yes, having moved to an English-speaking country, we have a circuit which at least 66% of it is English words, which of course makes it easy enough to pronounce. Quick look at the calendar that we've got in this particular season. Round 1 last week, as we mentioned, in Curitiba. Ziras taking out both of those wins, and then moving on to today towards the Virginia International Raceway. This is the rest of the series for you, and the dates, so mark them in your calendar. And that's the event, that's the details, the particulars if you like. 2 10-lap races, and the last time that this particular event was on the calendar was in the Super V8 Championship, the supercars, which was won by Ziras in one of the events when Apex Rear Wing was doing day-night races.
Yeah, sorry, that was me. No, it's a good circuit. I had a stab at this on Forza yesterday. You are lucky on this circuit; you don't have nearly as many tyre bundles to crash into.
Exactly. Well, it's an interesting old circuit. We'll get into that more in the shootout and talk about some of the issues that will befall some of the drivers, given that a lot of it is flat out. Even the technical sections can be flat out, but you've got to be quite precise. Turning our attention quickly to the points.
The points that I stand at the moment, Ziras is at the top with 2 wins last round, points of 50. Second place is Lewis Wedding, second and giving him 33 points to work with. Just behind him is Sam Smith on 32 points with a pair of podiums. Brenton Foley sitting in 4th with a great recovery in the second race to put him at 29 points. 5th is Birdo and Madbird coming just behind him in 6th place. 7th is D-Smadge, also sharing 7th with Bagsy and with Goofball, actually. All sitting there on 16 points. All the way back in 10th is Resist on 13 points. And the last 11th is shared by Pablo and Netherrealmian on 9 points. And Roadhog, making his debut this week, this round, is sitting on 0 points.
Yeah, Roadhog absent last week, and Nether actually will be absent this week. The only changes to the lineup for tonight's action. And speaking of last week's action, let's just have a look at some of the incidents. There were a couple of incidents that were reviewed by the stewards, and here are some replays. This was on lap 2 of race 1. This is between Bagsy and Resist. Now Bagsy locking up there and going into the side of Resist. He was, by all accounts, apologetic on Discord, and it was an honest mistake. Basically, as described by him and as adjudicated by the stewards. So he has received a warning for that. No penalty that affects the result of the race for Bagsy. Of course, it didn't do Resist any good, but he also forgave Bagsy, and then a very, very close rejoin for Resist. It wasn't really looked at afterwards, but I'm sure that's something that he will be more careful of tonight if he does have to recover to the track. Not that he would want to be doing that. Turning our attention to the other incident that got reviewed. This one was a little later on lap 6, with Foley running into the back of D-Smash and then running into the back of Madbird. So Foley receiving a warning for that one, for just misjudging his braking there, and it cost them both a fair bit of time there. And so both Bagsy and Foley will be probably driving with a little bit more caution tonight, knowing that they are on that warning, and that makes them if they do get another warning, the chances of receiving a penalty are heightened as a result of that.
Yes, they are. Yeah, the advantage with Virginia though, you've got room to spread out, so it's not going to be as clustered a race, which is good and bad. But for the drivers, they've got a bit more space to work with than they had at Curitiba.
They certainly do. Well, let's move into the practice results to have a look, and just in the last few moments of the session, it looks as though Lewis Wedding has jumped up into the lead of this session. It was Ziras leading it for the predominant majority of this practice session, but Lewis topping him by 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, Ziras was dominating for a long time, but Lewis jumped in in the last couple of minutes and popped him up, popped a 10th higher. They've really got a battle between themselves at the top in practice at the moment. The third place person at the moment is Goofball, but he is another 4/10 back. Sam Smith and Madbird rounding out the top 5 in practice.
Yeah, so Goofball, good to see him up there, up in third place. He's coming off the back of a couple of difficult results, struggled with the flu in round 1 and finished 6th and 10th. So he's down there tied actually with Decimage and Bagsy on 16 points apiece. So interesting to see what he can produce tonight. Sam Smith was up there challenging Ziras early on. I don't know whether he's just decided to go for a long run pace, as Ziras seems to be very he's on a personal best by some margin, so maybe doing some qualifying practice. But just to finish my point that I was making, Sam Smith was fighting over the win in one of the in race 2 last week, so expecting to see him up there again this week.
Yeah, Sam's one of the Sam's very proven himself as one of the top competitors. He was, if I remember correctly, he got 2/3 last week, so he also has got a very consistent drive, which consistency was a bit of a challenge with last week's race with the amount of position changes. But yeah, 2 podiums sets him up pretty well for the start of the season.
It certainly does, and it doesn't really tell the story of his 2 races there, third and third. The first race was basically a battle to keep Berto behind him. They had a tremendous battle over 3rd and 4th place, while Ziras and Lewis Wedding romped off into the sunset. In the second race, it was an all bets are off 3-way battle between Ziras Wedding and Sam Smith, which Sam seemed to be, well, he was leading for various parts of that race and seemed to have seconds sewn up, until out of nowhere Bretton Foley caught up to the battling trio for the lead. Ziras in the chaos got away, and on the last lap of the race, Bretton Foley managed to usurp Sam Smith across the line for second place. So 2/3 for Sam Smith, as you say, but very, very different ways of getting to that result in each of those races.
Yeah, yes, there was. Yeah, he's proved he's had the pace with these guys, and he is sitting a little further down than he'd probably ideally like to be in practice. This is just practice. He could be sandbagging it to maybe encourage the guys not to push as hard at the top or push harder, and then he will potentially show true form for qualifying, or potentially as you said, might be going for the race pace. The race isn't won in 1 lap, so.
Would you suggest he might be sandbagging?
Potentially. There might be a little bit of mind games going on.
Well, that's Ziras up in the retaking the lead of the practice session by 5/10 of a second. So the track, obviously, with the dynamic track grip, is getting faster and faster as the session goes on. So these sorts of times edging ever closer to a sub 2-minute lap time. I don't think we will get to that stage, but they're edging closer and closer as the session goes on there. And Ziras goes off the track there. So
yep, I just caught the rears there, and yeah, put a 180, just lighten the rears up on the grass.
1 minute left in the session now. Lewis Wedding just taking to the track now. So, of course, the qualifying format for this series is a one-shot shootout qualifying type format. So Lewis will at least get a little bit of practice on getting the car around in a very short amount of time before the time elapses. These cars, incidentally, some of the drivers speaking post-race last week about how it took them 10 or so laps, probably more, just to get the tyres up to temperature. So the wear was not an issue at all.
Yeah, running a harder compound means you take longer to warm up. And the other thing is with these cars is the lack of weight to warm those tyres up. But yeah, it's better in a way that the tyres take time to warm up than the tyres are by the time you hit lap 3 or lap 4 and then go off towards the end, because then you start to see sort of I think the term would be unforced errors that you really don't want to see, and it potentially ruin not only your race but races around you. So yeah, it's good the tyres take a while to heat up because it keeps the racing going.
Exactly right. So Lewis Wedding with a touch of grass on his front wheels, which you can see on that shot, just trying to wrestle the car through the double right-hander at the back end of the circuit, coming back towards us. In metaphorically speaking, if we were actually physically at the racetrack, we'd be somewhere near the pits, I'd imagine. So
yeah, I would. If we use the state series style of commentary, I don't think I'd very much like to commentate this track. It's a massive track, and the elevation changes are great for drivers, but you wouldn't see very much from a stationary commentary box.
Yeah, you'd want a bit of help from CCTV footage, and if you didn't have actual TV feed to go on. So we've got, I believe it is Pablo making his way out onto the circuit to start this session. A bit of a tricky pit lane there. The cars are all hidden away in tents a long way from the actual pit lane, so there's a bit of an obstacle course just to get onto the racetrack.
Yeah, I think if this were to be a full race series, this counted as being in the sort of back paddock where you might see something like, say, Super 2 or Kumo series if you were to convert to the V8s. Yeah, a bit of a drive they're going to do. I suppose it's more, just a little extra more mile to warm those tyres up.
So the running order for this shootout qualifying session will be Pablo, followed by Resist, Bagsy, Roadhog, Desamage, Brenton Foley, Berto, Madbird, Sam Smith, Goofball Antics, Lewis Wedding, and Ziras to finish off the shootout session.
So Pablo heading out now down to turn 1. Yeah, just to get in the heat of the tyres. This track's it's a funny one. You never really get a chance to. It doesn't give you a chance to have a break. Even the 2 or the 3 straights aren't even straights. You get the straight up past the houses where he'll be gumming in, I think, about the next 30 seconds or so. That's got a giant kink in the middle, and the front straight it's like front straight's like Surface Paradise. It's a straight, but it's not straight.
Yeah, this pit that Pablo's coming up to here for these cars is basically flat, but you have to be very precise. So that's really going to separate the men from the boys. I think this part here, where on the map it kind of looks like a straight, but there's a lot of undulation and there's a lot of subtle lefts and rights, which will make it very, very tricky to nail. And then coming up to this double right-hander at the Oak Tree, turns 11 and 12, such a crucial corner because it comes onto the longest straight of the racetrack.
Yeah, exactly. You lose a tenth or two out of here, and with the length of this straight and the sort of rate that these cars get up to speed, you're potentially down you could be down almost a second by the time you hit the end of it. And
the fact that it goes uphill as well means that it's going to be ever more important, because if you make that slightest mistake, all the way down here, it's costing you.
Exactly. Yeah, but you can potentially still make it up in this corner. This corner is a tricky one in that you're coming in at such a rate of knots and it drops down on you as well.
It certainly does. They call this the roller coaster, and you can see why. Look how much elevation change there
exactly. And it's very easy to overshoot it there. So you can potentially make up a little bit of time that you've missed. Not all of it, but you can make a bit of time by not going off the roller coaster.
And a bit of a lift out there through that final corner. That's actually going to cost him. He's not on his flying lap yet, but you need to get a fantastic exit off that final corner. They call that the hog pen, because it's going to affect your speed when you cross the line just there. And coming up towards the first corner, the brake marker boards, they're noted in 54321. They're not in feet or meters. So a little bit different to what you might see at some other racetracks.
Yeah, a lot of the race tracks normally using a distance board, but I mean, if you're using braking markers rather than actual distance to brake, I suppose it doesn't matter. But coming now through, is it turn 3 or turn? I think this is turn 4 coming up through
left
now.
hook.
There's a lot of corners here.
And coming up to turns 5 and 6, and turn 6 aptly named Snake.
Yeah, so is turn 6 just that first bit, or is this all turn 6 through here?
It's tricky because you've got turn 4 followed by 5 and 5A, which is a double right-hander after the left hook, and then 6 and 6A, which is sort of the next two kinks. And then it kind of doesn't count the next corner before where he's going through now is turn 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, it's a busy complex. So up over this straight in quotation marks, over that kink, which you can be very easy to fire yourself off there as well, down to the two right-handers of the oak tree.
Yep. So a very, very important corner here. A late apex, I think, would be the recommended line out of the oak tree corner. And you can see in the background there, Bagsy just trying to keep tabs with Pablo. Doesn't want to be too close because he needs to get a decent run onto the start of his lap. But so far it's been fairly clean for Pablo.
It has. I'm just keeping an eye on his speedo. He's VMAXing, what was that, about 211 down the straight, so it'll be interesting to keep that info in hand to see how the other qualifiers go. But yeah, very sort of safe line through that corner. Didn't stick it in too hard and didn't jump on the brakes too early either. So coming up now into the last section.
Such a long straight. The slipstreams, we saw how important it was at Curitiba, but it's going to be important here as well as Pablo comes out of the final corner, and we'll get to see our first benchmark for this qualifying session.
He's coming down now, down the curve straight, across the start-finish line, and it's a 2:10.177. So
that's, in terms of the times that he was setting in practice, a bit quicker. Did a 2:10.9 in practice, so he's found 0.2 of a second. Actually, sorry, 2:10. He's found 0.8 of a second, I beg your pardon, on what he managed in practice.
Yeah, so possibly just a one-lap shootout for about going to his head of the style of, I've got to give it all. And he's, based on his practice times, he has given it all.
Good job. So resist in practice, he did a 2:08. Didn't get a lot of practice in because he had the issue with his internet. He's running off of 4G dongle tonight because he's just moved house. And I said before that it was Bagsy following him. I correct myself, it was Resist. And up by a second.
Bagsy's just behind him now. But yeah, Resist heading up now to the, what I'm going to call the cabin straight, which is not a straight at all. Through the kinks. Nice use of the curb without throwing the car over too much. We need to see how he takes this corner. Little wide, little wide on the apex, but kept it on the track, down to Oak Tree.
Yeah, South Bend they call that, and it's a very, very tricky corner. So Resist taking a wider line on the entry to get a nice late apex. A lot of curb there. You can sort of do that if you don't lose too much speed. He had got a little bit of a swapper on through the exit.
Yeah, I think that a little bit of a tail wiggle might hurt his VMAX. We'll have a look in a couple of seconds.
We will. It's funny, these cars, they take quite a while to get to the exit, to the edge there. So he's 2 seconds up on Pablo, but we weren't expecting them to be too closely matched anyway. The deltas, the gaps between the cars towards the back end of the field, a bit bigger than at the front.
Yes, identical VMAX and then the straight, just both tipping into the 211s. So similar pace at the end of that straight.
Yeah, I think it's all about how quickly you achieve that VMAX.
It is, yes. Coming out now through the last corner / straight, across the finish line, and his time will be a 2:07.484 that eclipses Pablo by not far off 3 seconds.
But again, going quicker than he did in practice, so more to come from these two, I should expect, as Bagsy makes a start to his flying lap.
Yes, potentially just embracing some of the track rubber as well. But yes, it's good to see how everyone's improving and potentially going to be challenging a few more people further up, like Bagsy, who's out now.
He certainly is. The ABC Kids racing car with the Brum livery all over it. And coming through this first sector of the racetrack, probably the most Mickey Mouse, for lack of a better term. They're still pretty good corners. A lot quicker than you might find on some other tracks. And
Bagsy just observing that he was on stream, then giving us a little toot as he heads under the bridge now up towards the first of the high-speed S's.
3/10 up through the first sector, so looking good for Bagsy. In terms of what he managed in practice, he was on a 2:06.3, so he was about 2 seconds quicker than Resist in the practice. So if he can manage what he did in practice, then he will be faster than Resist. Hanging the back out there through the Oak Tree corner.
Yeah, a little bit of a slide there. I suppose if a corner's to do it, you'd rather you do it in the first one and the second one. He's kept the exit very nice. So went straight with the exit curb, but kept the tail in check, which is something that Resist was unable to do. So potentially a higher VMAX down this straight, or you will get there sooner.
Yeah, I think that's it, because these cars don't have a huge amount of power. The slipstream, I'm waiting for the slipstream battles along this straight. It's going to be fantastic, I think, as Bagsy trips a second sector split at a second up. In provisional pole, it's looking like for Bagsy.
So yes, as long as he can keep it cleaner in the last 3 corners, he should find himself provisionally on pole.
He should indeed. So down the hill, that right-hander, deceptively tricky, coming up to the line, and I should say it should be quite easily a 2:06. Is he going to make it into the 2:05s? He does, 2:05.7.
That's a pretty good time as well. Some big gaps at the back end of the field. It's kind of what you expect in a way. But yeah, 2:05 the best time, and Roadhog's now out to give it his shot at beating that.
Yes, number 29, first race of the season for Roadhog, and 1 of 2 for the Qamar Vipshot team. His team, which I believe says it translates to something about a crotch explosion in its whatever language it was. It was German last season. I don't know what it is this season, but nonetheless, that's what
it must show the excitement that he gets when he's jumping into a race car.
Yeah, I think that's the sentiment expressed, and he and D-Samaj both running the similar psychedelic liveries will be both accruing points for that team. So 7/10 up Roadhog through the first sector. So far, everyone living up to the form book and beating the guy behind them. Of course, the order that they run in is reversed from the order of their times in practice.
Very healthy use of the curbs through the S's, and very healthy use of that curb too.
That was pretty hairy. Roadhog.
That was probably a couple of mils off of a whoopsie.
Oh, that was wide, and he's round. Oh, and the worst part of the track to do so. So that, all of a sudden, is the end of Roadhog's chance for pole position. He's exited out there. So disappointment for Roadhog. He'll be starting from the back. We move now to look at his teammate, D-Samaj. And, well, what can he do in response?
Yeah, D-Samaj now having a bit more clear track than he expected for his warm-up lap. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he goes. We've potentially, based off of the improvements, we will see a bigger gap in theory between D-Samaj and provisional pole, which is Bagsy at the moment. But yeah, we get to see how D-Samaj goes.
Yeah, D-Samaj in some decent battles in round 1, and I think he and Roadhog are a good suit for a team. I think they both have a very similar driving style. We saw that Roadhog started, as I assume he intends to continue, with a very spirited start to his lap. If he continues in that sort of vein of form, albeit disappointing that he wasn't able to finish the lap, but he was close enough to, well, he was definitely looking like he was going to be ahead of the 3 who've set times so far. So if he continues to do that in the race, expect to see him up there fighting with the midfield battle.
Yeah, so D-Samaj now coming through turn 3. Very healthy use of that curb. Coming now through turn 4. It looks like he might have gotten the brakes a little early, but yeah, it's tight. Yeah, tidy line there. Bit of a wiggle with the rear end, but yes, another one there. But now a pretty good exit down onto the first straight.
And he's down, interestingly, on the provisional pole first sector. So a 10th down. So maybe you're right where you mentioned that you thought he might have braked a bit early through one of those corners, and it appears to have cost him. So can he recover that time? one would think, based on his practice times, that he can, or maybe he's taking this lap just a little bit easy. He's obviously aware what happened to his teammate.
Yes, yeah, that might be it. I mean, it is at this stage with Road having spun out, he can finish at any pace he wants and still not be last. Not that that's the aim, of course. Diesamaj is a capable midfield battler and he wants to start up there rather than having to pick off the solid drivers to get to his battles. But yeah, we'll see the second sector split soon.
Yeah, and it's not good for Diesamaj. 6/10 down. I think he didn't carry any pace through the Oak Tree corner, and it's cost him all the way down this straight. So he's got it all to do in this final sector.
Yeah, I believe it was I think he got it south corner the one before that. He seemed to take a long way on the throttle there as well. So maybe he's having, I don't know, some balance issues with the car or something, but I don't know.
Quite possibly. Well, time will tell whether he's actually managed to get anything back in this final sector across the line, and it's going to be second place for Diesamaj. He finds a 10th or so, but knowing him, I'd say he'd probably be a little bit disappointed with that, as all eyes turn towards Brenton Foley.
Yeah, Foley, our hard charger from last round, coming from the mid-pack at the end of race 1 up to second in race 2. I think he'd be hoping to start a bit further up the front than he did last round. But that said, he does, as we mentioned earlier, still have the warning hanging over his head. Oh, very, very big wobble there. Lucky to keep it under control. That might affect his pace a little bit. He's going there again. He is going for it.
Yes, he is. That is fun to watch. He said to me prior to the broadcast that he does struggle with this one-shot qualifying format. He's obviously not afraid of going for it. He's found a second in the first sector.
Bloody hell. So he's going for it. It's a style that you introduced to me last week, one of Sam Smith, but Foley's given a challenge for the how so he can get a car and still maintain race pace.
Yeah, well, Sam Smith picked this circuit. It's a draw that the lads all pick their favourite circuit, and then the top 10 get voted on, and this was this was Sam Smith's pick, so you expect to see very similar for him. But Brenton Foley, obviously taking a leaf out of the Sam Smith book of plays
of professional. You call it stunt driving, but this is quick as well as flamboyant.
Well, he has found the best part of another second through the middle sector, so absolutely lighting our timing screens up at the moment is Brenton Foley, and as we say that, he just gets it all in a little bit too hot into that corner. They call that the roller coaster, and boy oh boy, this has been a roller coaster of emotions for us. He's got enough of an advantage. He should still emerge in provisional pole, I should think.
He should still, yeah. He was the only car to tip into 212 on the VMAX, so he got a brilliant exit out of that last corner and was lightning on the gear changes.
Well, what is the time to beat going to be for Brenton Foley? It's 2:05.4, but he's only just ahead of Josh Baggsy, 0.2 of a second, and he'll probably be disappointed with that considering where he was at the second sector split.
Yeah, to be up nearly 2 seconds, and he would have seen that to go and then go down 2 seconds. Be happy to get a pole, but there is still plenty of faster runners to go, such as Berto.
Yeah, so in terms of his best overall pace, 2:04.2 is what he managed in practice, so he's 1.2 seconds off that, which he was, I mean, considering that he was 2 seconds faster than Baggsy at the second sector split, says that he was on for a personal best lap.
Yeah, almost potentially dipping into the 203s, which would have been interesting to see. But Berto now coming out of the first section of the track down the not so the kinked straight to the first set of kinks. Very measured use of the curbs, not pushing it too tightly over the curbs. Coming up now. Oh, sorry, he has already passed through the sector one. Coming up now towards Oak Tree.
This is looking good for Berto. He was down by 0.5 of a second on Brenton Foley in the first sector, and we all saw what happened to Foley, so that means Berto's in pretty good standing for going to the top of the timing screens for us.
Yeah, a little bit of a brake lock up to the two right-handers, but he hasn't let it phase him, and he's heading down now towards the roller coaster.
So he's a 10th up on Foley now, so this is looking absolutely splendid for Birdo. If he can get it stopped here, it'll be all roses from here on in. Where Birdo locked up into the oak tree there, I think it just sent him wide enough that he got a really nice late apex, so he carried a lot of speed in. The inside front lock tyre probably wouldn't have been too much of a concern for him.
Yeah, it was just a case of an accidental oopsie that actually paid off for a change. Second driver of the two to hit 212 down the straight, so it seems the faster drivers know how to get that perfect exit.
Well, here we go, Birdo. We fully expect him to destroy the time of Brenton Foley. 2:03.2. See you later, everyone else.
Yeah, full 2.2 up. It's possible Foley only being on track for 200 bit seconds up. Birdo might have actually beaten the hypothetical time that Foley would have set had he not had his boo-boo.
Yeah, well, he was a 10th up through the second sector split, so it's entirely possible. And Birdo pulling it out when he needed. So that was about 6 or 7 tenths faster than he managed in practice. Madbird was a 10th faster than him in practice, but he's going to have to step up his game if he wants to move to the top of the timing sheets in this qualifying session.
Yeah, I think the improvements are showing that the pace is everyone's pace is picking up, and the track having rubbered up and gripped up nicely is bringing everyone up the ladder. So as long as you have a clean lap without being too conservative, I think we'll see Madbird take provisional pole in about 2 minutes' time.
Potentially so. We will find out. Madbird, he's been pretty quick in these cars and consistent, but in terms of the first sector split, the times are not agreeing with him. 4 tenths down on Birdo, so either he just hasn't found the rhythm on this particular lap, or he's just going for a conservative lap to get him a solid position at the start of this race.
I'm looking at the use of the curbs. It's possible conservative. It's a very aggressive conservative if that's a potential, but yeah, he's definitely not poodling around. He's still giving it a go.
Yeah, I think he was a little bit too cautious into the oak tree there. Interestingly, again, that aggression seems to work into the oak tree, because sending you wide of the first corners, the first part of that corner seems to get you the ideal line out of the corner, as we mentioned, which is kind of counterintuitive, because you know you have to nail that corner because of this long straight after it, and they probably all have that in mind.
Yeah, they're probably all concentrating on the second corner. That some of them go as they're into the corner. Wait, oh shit, there's a corner right now. And that's what's causing the slide outs, but the slide outs are helping. So yeah, it's a counterintuitive racing line, but it's showing to be the quickest.
It is, and Madbird just coming up to the line now, and I think he should be able to slot up into second place ahead of Brenton Foley. Yeah, I don't believe he has an answer for Berto, and actually he's found time in the final part of that lap, so he's back to within 4 tenths of a second, so that's a pretty good end to the lap there for Madbird.
Yeah, yeah, good improvement over the last section. Obviously, getting that the roller coaster done very well.
Certainly did. So Sam Smith, the next man up, the man who chose this circuit, and he tends to put on a show in qualifying, does Sam Smith?
Yeah, you'd be expecting a good running for his favourite track, and as Foley was showing, the Leary style seems to, I mean, it works everywhere as for the 2 tracks we've seen so far, but this being his home track, I expect to see some sideways fun, but also some very quick lap.
Well, he's already 40 seconds into this lap, and he's up on Berto through the first sector, so this is looking pretty good to start off for Sam Smith. It hasn't been the sort of Leary moments that we've been expecting from Sam Smith. We've been talking it up. Maybe yeah, it's yet to come, but
potentially, maybe he's swapped that persona off to Foley this round.
Perhaps, because Foley was definitely a lot more fireworks and excitement than Sam Smith was here. But Sam Smith is definitely not slow. We can't accuse him of being slow.
No, not at all. It might just be with his favourite track and his home track, I suppose, as you could call it in a way, that having the intricate knowledge that would make him pick this as his favourite track to race on means he knows where to get the pace and is not just sort of finding the pace like he was in qualifying last round.
Well, he's fractionally down through the second split, and we know that Madbird found time through the final split on Berto, so maybe Sam can do the same.
Yeah, I'm thinking this has probably been the trickiest one because of the speed you're throwing into these corners. He's probably spent a lot of time practicing this section, but we'll see if that result has paid off.
Well, this is... We don't know what way this is going to go. Sam Smith, is he going to go to provisional pole? Yes, he does. 3.5 tenths of a second. That was a huge comeback for Sam Smith.
It is. It's all in the roller coaster.
It really was. Well, Sam Smith, it's interesting. The last time that this circuit was done in ARW was in the supercars, and in that qualifying session, it was actually when I was still racing. It was Ziras, Sam, and I were within 1,000th of a second. So that just goes to show how close some of these qualifying sessions can be.
Yeah, that reminds me, although not exactly of, I think it was Schumacher, who was it? There's 3 drivers, and I think South Africa. Frentzen was in there as well, all getting exactly the same time. But that's pretty good to get all within 1,000.
Yeah, to the thousands. It is remarkable when that happens. And goofball antics as he comes up to the first sector split. What sort of an answer does he have for Sam Smith? 2 tenths down, so he's got a bit of work to do, but he's right in there with a shot.
It'll be interesting to see if his approach to some of these faster corners is as the name would imply. But very measured, possibly a little bit on the side of fast. Oh, I was going to say, almost too quick there. Actually, he had to back off on the exit to avoid running wide, which is going to hurt his time.
Yeah, backing out of the throttle, that can cost you a lot. Clean through the oak tree. What sort of an exit does he get? It looks pretty good.
That was a very clean exit, yes. Should help his pace down the straight as long as he can get those gear changes perfect. Yeah,
every gear change crucial on such a long straight with not a huge amount of power in these inline 4 Caterhams. And, 6,000ths of a second. This is mighty, mighty close. We know Sam was mega through that final sector, though. So Sam Smith, is he going to stay at the top, or is Goofball Antics going to usurp him, or is he going to drop down into 3rd place?
3rd place is a while back. It's going to have to take a bit of a whoopsie through here, but he's kept it all pretty clean. Possibly lacking some of the aggression that Sam was showing, although not obviously showing it. But we're going to see where he slots in a couple of seconds.
Yes, we certainly are. And he's done it by 700ths of a second. That is mighty, mighty close.
I don't think you'd really get... well, we were talking about your thousands. I don't think you'd really get any closer if you tried.
Yes, so that is interesting. Goofball and Sam were both very, very quick through that final sector, but Goofball was just, it didn't look as committed as Sam's lap, but it was just quicker. Maybe he found some pace in the smoothness, especially in that final sector.
I was going to say, speaking of committed, Lewis Wedding got I think it was almost a 4-wheel slide there through the first corner.
Yeah, well, Lewis Wedding, one of the heavy hitters, 2nd place in practice, 202.3. Oh, that's a bit wide. He was 5 tenths faster than Goofball in the practice session, and I think we're about to see why, because he's absolutely hammering it right now.
Yeah, he's not giving any quarter. This car's going to feel it up.
So he's up by 3.5 tenths of a second. Lewis Wedding through the first sector. The commitment is paying off for Lewis Wedding.
Yeah, very, very aggressive use of the curbs. Keeping off that last curb, though, and to see how he goes through here. A little bit used to the entry and exit. Oh, right over the exit curbs, actually, but he's kept the throttle in. Yep. He has taken... he's a little bit of a wiggle there, but he's taken a very clean line through there. Got the... Just lit it up on the exit curb there, which kicked a bit of wheel spin in and slowed the acceleration down.
Maybe, but he carried more speed to start with, I think, than the others have. So I reckon
he did. Yes, he is. He's pushing the. I wish I knew what tires they were using. But he's pushing the insert brand here tires to the limit.
Yes, well, you can see they are sort of road tires. 4 tenths of a second there, so he's found another 10th in that middle sector. And, well, the final sector, he's just gone a little bit wide there. And will that cost him? I don't think it's going to cost him 4 tenths. I fully expect Lewis Wedding to come across the line in the next 20 seconds and claim provisional pole.
Yes, he trailed a... whoa. Yes, he was... He had a left locked brake through the left hand or right locked brake through the right hander, but I don't think it's slowing down at all. As we can see, he's still keeping the pedal to the metal, and we'll see if he can beat... Goofball, and he has.
He lost time to that final sector.
1 tenths.
Yeah. So
but considering the gap from second to third, that's pretty healthy.
it is. 202.6 though was 0.3 slower than he managed in practice, and while many others have been improving, if Ziras does that, then he's going to absolutely wallop the field to take pole position.
Yeah, so he's got a 2-minute 2 to beat. He was setting, I believe, 2:01s towards the end of practice, so
Yep.
to see if he can replicate that again now.
Yeah, Ziras' style doesn't have the flashiness of a Sam Smith or a Benjamin Foley, but it's just smooth and it is absolutely fast. And 2/10 up through the first sector. I haven't seen him put a wheel. He hasn't slid a wheel through this first sector. It's just been absolutely precise.
He has using only as much curb as he can, using all of the curb but none of the grass. A little bit of grass there though, but not almost very little exit curb just on the tail end there. Kept the car stable, locking the inside brake just a little through here. It's going a little bit sideways, but that's proved to help drivers in the past. And he's got a brilliant exit, even over the exit curb, which can be notoriously slippery at times.
That was like Birdo, but a little bit less of a lock-up on the inside front tyre in that corner. So
yeah,
it was just about as perfect as you could get.
Yes, I was going to say, a better managed lock.
Exactly. It was very, very quick, and 0.3 of a second now he has. That is, I think, the biggest margin we've seen since the early stages of this session. So
yes.
on course for pole position.
It just tipped it in there into the first part of the roller coaster, shoving the pace off or getting the car turned in. A little bit too much apex curb there, and I think it's delayed his approach to the throttle just slightly, but we should still see him fairly close to, if not at the top.
Yeah, Lewis, we saw lost time through the final sector, so Ziras, obviously his times are compared to his, and there you go, he's found another 0.5 of a second. So Ziras keeps his perfect pole record in check for this qualifying, for this series. So that's 3 pole positions, or well, actually, in terms of shootouts, we've had 2 now. So 2 pole positions from 2 shootouts, and of course in the race 2 last week he started first in the second race by virtue of winning the first race. So he starts on the front row in first place for the 3rd time in a row.
Yeah, it's just a question actually. Is the pole on the inside or the outside, Virginia?
You've asked me a question that I have not prepared for, so we will find out. We
will find out soon. Yes,
about 10 minutes probably.
Yes, I've been looking at that first corner, and it reminds me a little bit of the first corner at Spa. It's almost the worst combo first corner in a way. You've got enough of a straight leading up to it that people build up enough pace to then have to jump on the brakes, and unlike Spa, where you've got a hairpin that starts and it stops, and then you're out the way, this one just keeps going. And if somebody is a little over-eager, or a couple guys a little over-eager in as you get in something like Forza, there's normally a lot of people visiting the outside tyre barrier, but this series, being what is already represented as it's shown itself as last weekend, I don't think we're going to have that problem unless somebody is just, again, a little too overeager.
Yeah. One thing that I'm eager for in this particular race is to see how the slipstreaming battle unfolds, because certainly down the back straight it'll be an issue. In Curitiba, once cars got out of that slipstream, it was very, very difficult for them to do anything about catching back up again, short of the cars ahead having a battle or a mistake. You can go basically flat out through this S's section, but you've got to be you've got to nail those apexes, and if you're side by side battling with someone else, you won't be able to do that. So the battling, I think, early on in the race that occurs, if people are keen to go wheel to wheel early on and not just see the position and try and hang on, that will cost cars, I think, a lot more at this racetrack than it would at others. So if something like that happens, if say Lewis and Goofball or Sam get involved in a tussle through that first sector, Ziras could just check out very, very early on.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly that. A couple of guys, they're using the pit lane to try and get some speed, but yeah, if Ziras has proved he's got the race pace on everyone else and is the man to beat, if they think a short term as drivers and think, I want this position the next lap or two, and they battle wheel to wheel, and it's going to end up going too wide through those back S's, and they are going to slow themselves down. If they can think long term and have enough sort of above it all headspace to realize, hey, if I back off here and let X person through in front of me, we can then tag team up the back straight together and without slowing each other down too much. And that back straight, you've got enough length there for cars to maybe even get back to the position they started in a two-car slipstream team.
Exactly right. Well, the cars, all but 3 of them, Wedding, Antics and Smith, the only ones yet to make their way onto the racetrack, are about to do a practice start. So we can see them just lining up as we speak down the... now, where are we? Are we on the back straight there, son? No, we are actually on the normal straight. Yeah, which is a strange camera angle that I'm not used to for this part of the track. But practice start's very important.
Yes, I was a little confused there. Everyone lined up for a grid. I'm just like, hang on, we've got warm up first. But yeah, practice starts. These have normally gone. Oh, who was?
Someone blasting through. It might have been Berto.
Yeah, I saw a shadow. That was all I saw. But they were lucky that Foley was on his spot, or they would have taken somebody out.
It wasn't Berto. It was a darker coloured car because Berto is just lined up there alongside Pablo. Someone blasting the horn at full volume. So we've got 5 cars.
The horns, it's just on or off, but making sure that we do know that they are there and that they can be heard on the stream.
Yes, I'm sure they will be aware. If they did watch last week's stream, there was plenty of beeping going on.
Yes, I was going through my replays, and half the replays is just horn.
Yes, so a long wait here for this practice start. So they're obviously waiting for, I believe it's Roadhog, to make his way up there. We've got D-Smash at the front of that queue, reversing himself into place.
That was who I was seeing. Yeah, I was going with drivers to find out. Yeah, Ziras coming around now. Wedding's just ahead of him. Goofball in the pits. Sam Smith's just heading out now. So I'm not sure if they're going to wait for everyone. It's a long time here to wait for everyone. There's no... well, I mean, there is technically you could just hang a left out of the pits and drive up to the grid. But
some people did that.
There's no... it's a lot longer to wait for someone to do a setup lap than it is for Curitiba.
It is. While they're making their way around after that practice start, we will take a quick break, during which you should be able to familiarise yourself with some of the drivers. We'll put up some of the driver profiles. All the stats are accurate to the start of this series, and we'll see you back in about a couple of minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Horn Fest. 3 minutes
Yes,
remaining in the warm-up session and another practice start about to get underway, Rhodey.
I was going to say that, but I think unless we missed it, I think this is their first practice start. It's taken them that long to get around and get set up.
So there we go. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was just making noises. Looked like a pretty clean practice start, actually.
Yeah, pretty good. So hopefully starting that one as they intend to continue. Now, in terms of this particular series, you've seen 2 of the races so far. This is going to be the 3rd. We've seen 2 very different races at Curitiba. What do you sort of race do you expect to see? Do you see the cars getting spread out quite a lot, or do you expect a lot of close wheel-to-wheel action with dearie me, with all sorts of slipstreaming action going on?
I up the front, I think Ziras will be the. I'm still not sure, and it's hard to tell whether, as I said, whether the drivers will be able to work as a team to be able to keep up with and then actually race with Ziras. If there is squabbling, Ziras will probably run away with it again. I expect also to see Sam Smith up there, though, this being his choice of track. But Ziras has proved he's got the pace to beat. Down the field, it depends. I expect to see some of the battle we had last week, but whether there is enough attentiveness to go, hang on, straight line speed here is more important than corner pace. We have to work together to not run each other off the corners. I can't predict how this is going to go until we've done at least another lap, or 2 of race pace.
Well, that's fair enough. It's oh, dearie me, Bagsy taking the jump.
Well, yes, I was just watching Mad Bird and I heard a flipping yellow brum calf go flying across the screen.
Yes, so something that he does like to do in warm-up sessions is test the limits of the circuit itself, often find jumps that he didn't know was there. I think there he was trying to clear that tyre barrier, and unfortunate for Berto, found himself rejoining the circuit stationary right in front of Berto.
I think the only circuit I've heard of people finding jumps online on is, I think I've heard of people going, there was actually a time where you could jump over along the old straight at Bathurst before they put the chase in.
Yes, but, that definitely is possible.
I did not know there was a jump there.
But there was one, I don't know if it's in the new version because it's been updated, but Sydney Motorsport Park had a very, very big jump in one section of it, the old Eastern Creek, of course. For people who don't know what I'm talking about when I say Sydney Motorsport Park, but certainly the version which was made by Patrick Gerenthon, who makes a lot of the circuits that Automobilista uses, that was one that had a big jump in it.
It's good. I mean, you're only really going to get precision in building a track on the track. You need a little bit of runoff for people to put a wheel on the grass, but I suppose it's a bit of fun for everyone, I suppose, if there's a little secret jump off in the corner for everyone after the race. And you put it after the first corner or something, just for a... because when we see the guys, they aren't most professionals until that checkered flag drops, and then it's a case of how many wheels can I knock off my wagon?
Yeah, exactly right. I find actually with these Automobilista circuits that they tend to be reasonably well accurate. You know, as you mentioned, they only have to be accurate enough on the track itself, but off circuit, and for the circuits that I've actually had the privilege of visiting in real life, I've gone and had a look at some of the paddocks in those particular racetracks, and they're not too far off usually.
Yeah, the riser developed tracks are going to be as they are sort of, the dev tracks, they're going to have put the time in, but it's good to see some of the guys who, I mean, are doing it just for a hobby, that are still putting in, have the sort of level of, they are their own worst critic enough that they are trying to compete and beat riser on track quality.
That's right. Well, a couple of cars, well, about half the field still in the pit lane, just waiting till the last possible moment to grid up. Certainly not wanting to carry any more fuel than they need to, so, and not burn any more fuel than they need to. So waiting till the last possible moment to
I
grid up.
am going. Yeah, so I'm going to start with a little happy moment for anyone who remembers last week of me having technical issues. They're still happening, but at the moment I can see 5 cars, which means I might actually be able to call cars on liveries and not just on their track position, which is going to be helpful.
There we go. Well, we certainly have more than 5 cars in this race as they start to make their way off on their warm-up lap. So we'll take you through the grid for this second round of the Apex Rear Wing Caterhams Series, season number 7 from Virginia International Raceway. And Ziras was the class of the field in practice, and by some margin, the class of the field in qualifying, taking pole position by 0.8 of a second from Lewis Wedding, who was a bit scrappy in the final sector, but was fairly sublime in sectors 1 and 2 as well. So he starts on the second row, on the second grid spot, I should say, the first row. Goofball Antics, most improved qualifier, I should say. He up in 3rd place, and his number is 3, so that's very, very handy. Sam Smith starts in 4th place. His circuit, he's the one who picked this circuit, and who can blame him? It's an absolute peach of a racetrack. Birdo starts in 5th place. I can see Sam and Birdo having a rivalry that lasts the entire series. He had good battles last week with Sam Smith and D-Samaj, and he starts in 5th. Alongside him, Madbird for Nikon InGen R Technologies Racing, the number 17, and he'd probably be a little bit disappointed. He was ahead of a couple of those guys in practice, but wasn't able to pull out the lap that he wanted in qualifying, but very good in the final sector, pulled back a bit of time. Brenton Foley, well, he was on an absolute cracker of a lap, but made a mistake in the final sector, and it all fell apart from there. In the end, he was fastest at the time of setting the lap, but only 0.2 up on Bagsy behind him when he was at one stage 2 seconds up. So behind him, Bagsy, ABC Kids Racing, starts in 8th place, ahead of D-Smash. Oh, and we've got Goofball Antics just recovering to the circuit, who's made a mistake somewhere on his warm-up lap, so he'll be able to recover his position, obviously. Resist starts in 10th place for Black Flag Industries. Pablo in 11th, and then bringing up the rear, Roadhog, who was on a spirited lap, but didn't finish the lap after spinning down at the oak tree.
Yes, Roadhog being the driver, I expect this round, or this race, to be cutting up through the field as the laps go on.
Yes, I expect that too. He's a bit of an enigma. His form can go up and down a little bit, but he finished on the podium in his very first race with Apex Rear Wing all the way back in, I believe it was season number 2. We raced stock V8 cars for the Brazilian stock V8 cars, and in that race he was very quick around mid-Ohio.
Cars just gridding up now. Goofball has made his way back to his third grid spot, sorry.
Yes, so we can see now the cars making their way. Roadhog, the final car to make his way onto the grid, and the lights are about to get us racing here in Virginia International Raceway. It's go! A pretty clean start, a lot of smoke, of course, because there is all sorts of wheel spin going on. And now Lewis Wedding having a look down the inside. Ziras covering it off. Sam's made his way up into 3rd place here. And Lewis Wedding trying to go around the outside of Ziras for the lead of the race.
They're going 3 wide behind them. It's, who was it? It was Bagsy in there with Bretton Foley and one other as well. They went 3 wide, though, on the first lap, and I said they were going to do that, but they kept it all very clean as well.
A great start from Madbird, making his way past Birdo, but Birdo's fighting back already, and those two going side by side through the snake, and this is the sort of action that we said would allow the leaders to get up, make some distance, I should say. And look at the gap already. There's a 2-second gap between the leading 3, and there's Birdo and Madbird battle. Look at Madbird. Look at Bagsy. He's made up a number of positions as well.
Yeah, I was going to say the biggest loser at the moment is Goof in 9th, dropping his 6 spots off the start. I think it was just a bad start, and maybe got caught on the outside through the first couple of corners.
So Birdo seems to have broken clear of Madbird a little bit. Now, what can he do about the leaders? Because the top 3 are inside, well, just outside a second separating them all. 2 seconds back to Birdo. So Ziras leads the way by half a second. Now Lewis Wedding if he can stay in the slipstream of Ziras, puts himself in with a good chance of winning this race. But it's through those twisty bits. If Ziras can get away, it may well be all bets are off.
Yeah, same position actually. I think best of the three at the moment. Through these corners, if Lewis Wedding or Ziras make an error, and that could potentially take either or both of them out, he is positioned well to capitalise on any errors.
Certainly is. A little bit of grass for Ziras on one of the preceding corners there, but it hasn't really bothered him too much. As they come across the line, they'll be a little under 0.4 of a second separating first and second place. Ziras and Lewis Wedding with a rivalry that seems to stretch across a number of series. The Automobilista Australia Formula 1 1997 series, where Lewis Wedding seems to have the edge on Ziras, but the Caterhams so far, the Ziras seems to have the edge on Lewis Wedding.
Yes, they got very close there on the brakes in turn one, but Lewis keeping a good healthy amount of air between his bumper and the bumper of Ziras.
Back in the midfield, yeah. Sorry to cut across you there. We've got D-Samaj fighting. Oh, Bagsy! Oh, he's held that one, but he's gone off the track onto the grass through the left hook. And D-Samaj, after putting Bagsy under some pressure, has forced the error.
Yes, a lot of cars jumping past Bagsy now, back to 10th in all that, and he might potentially drop back behind resist. That's the problem, is that this is a long straight, and for him to make have an off there, it hasn't just affected him there, it's affected him for effectively a quarter of the lap. Yeah, so a huge moment there in the race for Josh Bagsy. And again, Madbird given some breathing space in 5th place. Now we've got Foley's all out of control on the back end of D-Samaj. D-Samaj finding himself on the inside of the track there. That's going to cost him a bit of time on the exit of the Oak Tree corner. And alongside him, Bretton Foley pulls up, and he just had a much better exit. So coming up this straight, D-Samaj has got nothing to fight with. No, D-Samaj pushing him right to the inside of the track, but yeah, the much better exit, just seeing Foley steam on by.
Seeing him steam on by indeed. So Madbird, he's got Birdo just up ahead of him. He's not let him go at all, so he's going to be putting him under pressure for 4th place, and they've been given a reprieve by this battle that's going on behind them.
Yeah, it's now broken into a 4-car train. Foley leading D-Samaj, Goofball starting in recovery, now sitting in 8th, and Roadhog also recovering up to 9th. Yeah, so Roadhog, man on a mission after starting at the back of the field, has made it up 3 spots off the start. Bagsy, Pablo, and Bagsy and Pablo, the cars behind him. Can he do anything about this battle in front? Goofball Antics, who had a shocking start. Foley just around. Foley lit it up on the grass. D-Samaj was on the inside. There was no contact from what I could see, but Foley just took it a little wide and got the rear on the grass, and it was all over Red Rover from there.
Let's catch a replay of that all-over Red Rover action there. You see D-Samaj looking to the inside. Was that enough to distract Foley? It looks as though that might have been what happened. Wide of the apex and no grip offline.
Yeah, just got distracted by the car on the inside and let his car drift off course.
So this becomes the battle of the recovery efforts now. Bagsy, Foley, and Goofball Antics probably doing the best out of those, having made his mistake earlier on. Haven't made too much mention of Resist here. He is in 9th place. Not a lot of practice and doing pretty well considering he hasn't really had too much of a chance to get up to speed.
No, he's having a bit of a Bradbury race at the moment. Of him either making their own mistake or getting caught up in someone else's, and he's just plodding along in 9th. He's got his own comfortable space to work with, and as he gets the experience in, and the advantage of cars like Josh Baggs behind him, who will probably pass him in the next lap or two, he can then jump right into his toe ball and get some pace up that way.
Just catching a replay now of Lewis Wedding tucking up into the slipstream, and it seems making his way past Ziras for the lead of this race. And down this long straight, he got the inside, and we've got a new leader, ladies and gentlemen.
We missed it with all the excitement in the mid-pack, but yes, the leaders at the moment are driving away. Ziras is potentially going to have a run him into turn 1. He's picked the outside. Ziras picking the inside, coming into the braking zone now. It'll be interesting to see who goes where.
Ooh, Ziras there. I thought he was going to try and cut back, but He couldn't because Lewis Wedding was there. Lewis on that lap set the fastest lap of the race, slipstream assisted, of course. But they're side by side now, and it's all about what way the next corner goes. Luckily for Ziras, the next corner goes left, and he's on the inside of the left-hand corner.
I think a Wedding just slipped back enough that Ziras, I thought he could pull it wide, and in the end, Wedding had to back off to avoid a little bit of, what does you guys call it, nuts to butts?
A bit of nuts to butts action there as they go through this, the eye of the needle, I call this part of the track, because you've got to be so precise. A little bit of inside curb there for both of them, with Lewis Wedding kicking up, I should say, a little bit of grass. But Lewis Wedding is putting Ziras under a fair bit of pressure, so Ziras isn't having it all his own way, the way we thought he might do.
No, he was making up time on him. Even through the kinks, he was able to use the slipstream to catch up to him, and still managed to maintain control despite having a higher speed.
So up the back straight, this is where Lewis made the move past Ziras on the previous lap. Is he close enough to do the same this time around? Doesn't look like he is at this stage, or unless he goes for a very, very late move. But for the time being, content to stay in Ziras' wheel tracks.
It's just scrolling through the pack. It seems at the moment, though, the battle for the lead is the closest we've got.
Yeah, we've just had Goofball Antics overtake Decimage, though, so that's another battle that is almost as close as this one, with Goofball Antics making the move up and very, very nearly relinquishing the position again. Now the two QVB V.I.R guys line astern now. They're in 7th and 8th place. Oh, and James is really sliding that thing around.
Yeah, a little bit of a wiggle there for Decimage. Has actually hurt him quite a bit. He's now got Roadhog right up on his trumpet. Yeah,
we've had Resist go off in the back of shot there, so just going wide and relinquishing position to Brenton Foley.
And I think Bagsy as well. I don't think Bagsy had caught him by the time they got to...
So what can these guys do about the guys in front of him? And what can Lewis Wedding do about Ziras? So far still 7/10 behind him. And Sam Smith, it seems, unable to match the pace of the leading two. He was on the previous lap around about a second slower than Lewis Wedding. Last lap round, Ziras 201.9, Lewis Wedding 202.5. So Ziras turning on the pace when he needs to.
Yes, and it probably, the pace really depends on who's sitting in second as they come onto the back actual straight, because that's where all the pace seems to be made up across the lap.
Yeah, so is Ziras trying to break Lewis Wedding's toe? It would seem as though that is what he's trying to do. Halfway through this race already, a long lap around here, something around 5 kilometers. So we only do 10 laps to get our 50-kilometer race, and it means that we're already halfway through. It's a very, very fast average speed.
It is, yeah. It's Phillip Island-esque in an aspect, but I think the track itself lends it more to a Sandown style situation with a lot of straights and some twiggly little bits to connect the two.
Oh, Lewis has closed really quite a long, I should say that again. Lewis has really closed up to the back of Ziras down that straight. And I think we had an issue for Sam Smith there. He's dropped a fair bit of time. Saw a bit of smoke in the background now, and he's only 3 seconds ahead of Berto.
He has. He was a little closer. Berto is dropping back as well, but there were similar gaps about a lap ago between second and third and fourth and fifth.
Fastest lap of the race for Lewis Wedding, and he's going to have a look around the outside of turn 1 here. And does he get the job done? He going to drive around the outside. There's no grip on the outside of that corner. I can attest to that. And Lewis Wedding losing out there. He tried around the outside. It was a bold move, but Ziras retains the lead.
Speaking of no grip, I just caught the end of Roadhog taking a very big excursion grass through the last corner. Yeah, they didn't look too grippy there. Speaking of no grip, he's really thrown it into the into turn 1 there.
Well, there you go. So first, second, and third in this race, and that's the same order as they are in the championship, with first, second, and third. Ziras, Lewis Wedding, and Sam Smith, the 4th place in the championship. So Brenton Foley down there in 10th place has got a fair bit of work to do.
Yes, I was about to say that I think Ziras might have broken the toe, but he looks like he's just still on the Lewis is just still on the edge of that toe, and he's making up pace now into the braking zone at Oak Corner.
Yeah, you can't discount Lewis Wedding. I think every time Ziras looks like he's clear, home and dry, Lewis Wedding pulls something out of the bag and keeps
yeah, I was
himself
going to
in
say that.
contention.
It looks like you got a poor exit there onto the straight, so he might not be able to take full advantage of the slipstream provided to him by Ziras.
Yeah, but it'll keep him in play. That is the crucial thing. You can see how much he is gaining through this bit as they got to the braking zones now. Oh, that's very, very hot for Lewis Wedding. I thought he was about to collide with Ziras, so he's so much... Either he's braver than than Ziras on the brakes, or he just made that one through the skin of his teeth.
I think there was a little bit of a potentially a bit of an accident in there, yeah. But he was
coming out.
Yes, okay, we can say that. Yes,
well, you said shit before, so I think we're allowed to say poo.
Good point. He is doing it again. He's getting an extra 2 or 3 k's an hour. He's buzzing the limiter and...
Oh, there's a crash!
Shit!
Oh no, that's not good. That is not good. Let's go back and catch a replay there because, well, that was a strange one. Let's catch that on board from Lewis Wedding. It's turn 1. It's a tricky corner because it's just such a weird... So Lewis Wedding had gone to the inside. I don't know that Ziras quite knew he was there, and they both collide. So that's a tricky one to call, quite honestly.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it depends on sort of where your focus is. I mean, he was right up in the mirrors, but if you're not looking there, you won't see them. But yeah, he just got a little bit too early inside, and racing incident. The important bit was that they readdressed it. I think Ziras did end up going further off, but Lewis waited for him before they kept going. So they're obviously enjoying this battle too much to go for the win at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, Lewis Wedding with that move was attempting to go for the win, but it just didn't quite pay off for him. Personally, I think he had enough of his car up alongside, but of course Ziras can't have been expected to know that he was there if he'd already committed to turning in.
Yeah, he had licked that stamp and he had sent it. Unfortunately, it gave Ziras a paper cut on the way through.
Well, despite a paper cut, he leads by 0.8 of a second, which is bigger than the margin he had this time last lap. And Lewis Wedding, can he drag himself back into contention?
Interesting to note, the gap is big enough that my internal graphics will actually render the other car.
Well, dearie me. Well, you're doing a remarkable job regardless of only being able to see one of the cars. So let's check their lap times as they come around. Well, check their sector times. The first sector will be a little bit misleading because they both went off the track. But Lewis was marginally quicker than Ziras in the middle sector by about 0.5 of a second. And through the final sector, it was a 34.48 for Ziras and a 34.78 for Lewis Wedding. So Lewis dropping 0.3 in the last sector of that lap.
Yeah, I'm going to find some wood to touch before I say this, but I feel like that move from Lewis might have been like a last gasp thing because Ziras is now clearing out, and especially as the tyres come on, that Ziras is more, there's a better word for it, more awake to the increased grip that he has to play with.
Well, good chance to take stock of what's happened to everyone else in the race. Sam Smith has had a fairly lonely old run in 3rd place with Berto not giving him... Well, he's close enough there for him to be a little bit worried about that 3rd place with 2 laps remaining. So keep an eye on that one. Berto there, he has a margin of about 3 seconds over Madbird. So Madbird's been running again a lonely old race in 5th place. Goofball Antics, recovering from his horrific start, is closing in on Madbird. Madbird had a track cut on the previous occasion, so we don't really know what the pace on the last lap was comparative to Goofball Antics, but actually this looks like it's hotting up. This may well be the closest battle on the racetrack very shortly.
It is. I think at the moment, yeah, the closest battle is Goofball, who is visually making up time on Madbird.
Well, looks like Madbird may well be forced to defend sooner rather than later because you can't rely on a 0.6 of a second advantage in the dying stage of this race. Only 2 laps remaining, and Goofball Antics will be eager to make amends for his poor start.
Speaking of, yes, he's now up on the bumper now in the inside of Madbird, but getting on the brakes early. He's smart. He's he can recognise that this is lap 8 and not lap 10, and he's still got plenty of time. And as he's showing, he has the pace to beat Madbird without having to resort to a dive down the inside.
Well, down the inside, you would expect him to look, and Madbird covers that off quite neatly. And we've seen how little grip there is on the outside of turn 1. Can he drive around the outside of Madbird? It looks like Madbird is going to try and keep him at bay, but crucially, Goofball Antics has enough of his nose inside to get the inside line through through the series of left-handers. But look how much more grip there is on the racing line there for Madbird. So Madbird fights back spectacularly and holds on.
Yeah, Madbird gave him just enough room when the outside became the inside, but only just enough. It was a car width, nothing more.
Ooh, this is going to go down to the wire.
Oh, it is. This is holding up right now.
This certainly is. Well, it'd be a brave man to make any sort of move through this section, but Goofball Antics is close enough that Madbird will be absolutely filling his pantaloons right now.
Yes, to paraphrase a quote I picked up yesterday off of one of the races in for a racer, if this race was Sriracha, we've just added some Chipotle.
There you go. So what sort of response does Madbird have now? Goofball Antics is very, very close. He's got the best opportunity he will have had since turn 1 of this lap, but down the inside, there's no way Madbird can possibly defend this one because Goofball Antics will be clear before they make it to the braking zone at this rate. But they're going to get to their VMAX, their top speed, very, very shortly. And if Madbird is still alongside and he can just manage to outbrake Goofball, he might be able to hang on to the position. It's absolutely brilliant racing. They're giving each other the room. Does Goofball sail wide of the apex? No, he parks it nicely. And he's got the position, but he's made a meal. He's nearly made a meal of it. He hangs on to it. He hangs on to it. And Madbird says, I wish you dropped it. I wish you dropped it. Whoa.
He had to cover off massively there after that. He nearly sent that backwards. He was really close to sliding that around, but kept under control and just moved across enough that he was able to fend off Madbird trying to have a go for him. But Madbird's coming back to have a go again.
Yeah, you got to be tricky. It's this first corner funnels you into a mistake quite easily. What does Goofball do? Does he make an error? He's got a little bit of a wiggle on out of the... Oh, another wiggle. 2 stabs at the throttle to try and get the power down. And both ended in opposite lock. But he keeps the car in a straight line. And he's far enough clear. This is the final lap, by the way, so there won't be too many more opportunities. Madbird just wants to get himself at least within slipstream's range. And anything can happen in the final sector of the race. But he's dropped well back now.
Yeah, just saying that he got a little bit on the exit curve, I think, out of 4, and it dropped him back. And Goofball already having a slight pace advantage on him. Madbird had to drive to the edge of what he could do to keep up with him, and unfortunately he's had to push a bit further than that, and that's resulted in him dropping a rear onto the grass.
Samaj and Roadhog down there in 8th and 9th, they've had a troubled end to this race. And Brenton Foley recovering quite nicely up into 7th place. As we pick up the leader now, just coming down the back straight, and just about 30 or 40 seconds separating him from the end of this race.
Yeah, it's become a very lonely race towards the end of this for Ziras, to a degree for Lewis as well. I believe Sam will potentially hold him to 3rd, bar an error. Berto is closing, but he's still a second back at the end of the last straight, and unless he can make it up through here, I think things for the top 4 will stay as they are.
Yeah, looking pretty rosy there. That's going to be 3 perfect results for Ziras. First and first, he puts himself onto 75 points with Lewis Wedding solidifying his place in 2nd in the championship with a 2nd place finish ahead of Sam Smith, who finishes just a few car lengths ahead of Berto. Berto equaling his best result of the championship so far with 4th place. And behind them, Goofball Antics and Madbird after their fantastic battle. Madbird probably a bit disappointed to give up that 5th late on in the race, but he fought well for it.
We've got a battle here. Roadhog just got past Samaj at the end there for 8th place.
Yeah, for the teammates having a little bit of a battle as Bagsy goes well wide. At the end of this race, knocking out all of the brake marker boards. Don't need them again. They will be reset prior to the next race. So that is that's your top 10. Resist and Pablo, 11th and 12th.
Yes, it seemed in the end there Pablo was just gaining on resist, but the game dropped me out to the menu, so I don't know how they finished.
Oh, there you go. Well, it looks like they're still just coming across the line. Resist just about to cross the line now. Pablo with a very, very wide final corner. He will finish 12th regardless. So that is the result of race 3, Virginia International Raceway, round 2. And we'll bring you the points in very short order once we get them all entered in.
It actually, technically, I think shows the to Pablo to have not finished in the results. I think he went for his grass tour before he'd crossed the finish line rather than after.
I think he's still coming across now. So he's just about to finish across the line, and there he goes.
It was, I believe it was him. I saw spin off to the inside with a bit of a grass run and take off the bonnet. So good to see you can at least move it around to the end. I'm seeing Brenton Foley in the background doing the sort of spins you expect of a four-wheel drive rallycross car on dirt, sort of a Jim Carner-esque.
Well, that's race 1. Provided some good action. The battle for the lead, unfortunate the way that sort of fizzled out with that weird little incident at turn 1, but we've seen now that Lewis Wedding, he's shown his hand. He does have the pace. What can he do in race 2?
Yeah, Ziras has got the pace, and the only thing that's stopping him at the moment is Lewis Wedding coming at him. And we saw some good improvements to the field, but probably not as good as we were expecting. I mean, Goofball didn't really have improvements to make off the start, but to come back from almost, I think, 10th at one point, to come back to 5th as that race spread out was a good result. Foley up to 7th, Roadhog just behind him in 8th, and I mean, Foley went from 7th to 2nd in race 2 last week. He might have a go at the same thing again this week.
Well, quite potentially. He, in terms of his race pace, just looking at the end of the session there, 2:02.9. So that was his best lap of the race, and it's not. He's actually finished roughly where he is pace-wise, at least based on race pace in that particular event. So it's hard to say, really.
Yeah, it's all going to depend on how much. I mean, the battles were there at the start, and it was pretty much the battles almost there until every driver had found their pace, and then they all started to split up. We saw exceptions to that being recovering drivers and anyone who could grab a slipstream. If people can keep their slipstream going and for long enough, people like Foley have the chance to elapse on the slipstreams and get the pace to get up there. But we saw how quickly first, second, and third broke away and then became first and second. I doubt, unless he's going to get a good launch, someone like Foley from mid-pack could get themselves on the podium, or at least in the top 2 for this race.
Well, just to quickly update everyone on the point situation after 3 races, Ziras taking a very early stranglehold on this championship with a perfect 3 wins from 3 races. He is on 75 points ahead of Lewis Wedding in second on 53, 5 points clear of Sam Smith with 3 third places. He finds himself down there on 48 points. Brendan Foley next up in 4th place with a very strange couple of results, 7th, 2nd, and 7th again. So if the pattern is to continue for Brenton Foley, 2nd seems to be in Brenton Foley's future for race number 4, or race 2 tonight at Virginia International Raceway. Berto with 4th, 6th, and 4th in 5th place on 36 points, just 2 points behind Foley. Madbird in 6th place in the championship, 32 points, ahead of Goofball Antics on 27. Desamage on 23 points, just 1 point clear of Bagsy on 22. Resist is on 18 points, Pablo on 13, Nether on 9, and Roadhog on 8.
Yes, so some of the early tied point scores you get towards the start of the season have started to already work their way out into individual placings, and people actually have their own place and they're not sharing.
Exactly. So the 3 guys we had tied on 16 points at the first round is obviously no longer the case. No need for countbacks anymore. Not to say that that won't be the case in the future. We've had quite a number of results in previous series in Apex Rear Wing that have come down to the wire, and a countback has been required to separate two drivers tied on points.
Yeah, and yeah, I've seen that happen. I have seen that happen on off occasion with real life as well. So what it shows is a series where it's close pace and anyone can win, as opposed to I can't pick. I mean, I suppose in a way, supercars at the moment you've got the top two, and then there's a pretty healthy gap back to third. But yeah, it shows that this is a series where anyone, at least on paper, can race up the front.
Yes, well, Ziras with 3 wins, you would expect to... Well, 3 wins from 3 races. It looks on paper like he's absolutely dominated. It's probably not fair to say that he's absolutely had it all his own way. The first race in Curitiba may be so, but he did come under some pressure from Lewis Wedding in the first race tonight, and indeed in the second race in Curitiba, Lewis Wedding and Sam Smith giving him something to think about.
Yeah. So yeah, he's had a little bit of help in an inverse way with some people battling, but as time has got on, people are smarter. But in this case, he only had one person to fend off, which was Lewis Wedding, and once he sort of broke Lewis's back as such, Lewis couldn't do much to keep up with him. And whether it was the tires, whether it was just the mental and physical fatigue of driving sim, because most of these guys are driving. It's not. I mean, I'm sitting here with a Xbox controller to control the cameras, but people are sitting. I would think everyone's sitting here with sort of full four-spoke wheels and whatnot, and it's not. I heard this comparison with real racing as well. It's not just sitting on your butt turning a wheel. There is actual physical and mental effort involved in this. Even doing 10 laps at the back of Formula V field, like I've done, does take a toll on your noggin.
It does, and sometimes a physical toll when, especially in the height of summer, when temperatures are up, it can leave you feeling very, very sweaty at the end of even a short race. Not the case now for people like Ziras and all the other guys who are SA based, where at the moment it's something resembling August weather, even though it's late November. But,
yes, we've got the same thing. It's we had a torrential downpour yesterday, and it's still hanging around today. And me being who I am, all I can sit there while it's happening and sit there and think is, I really wish I was out in a go-kart in this.
Yeah, it'd be some slidey weather. I can tell you, it's probably a lot more fun in a go-kart than it is on a motorbike, that's for sure. But,
absolutely.
Got blown off today. But nonetheless, oh no, what's happened there? We've had someone spin it round on the start of the warm-up lap and go back to the grid. So we've had the servers reset. So
yeah, I believe somebody I can't remember who it was. Somebody started a vote to. There we go. We're having Ziras stepped in and maintained order. We had somebody step in and set up a vote to move to the next session, as if they're ready to go, and then I'll start to line up the grid anyway. So yeah, I don't know. We're getting caught up in the game's automatic systems.
Getting word through on the ground that Brenton Foley's it says Foley crashed, so I don't know whether to interpret that as Brenton Foley's computer crashed or Brenton Foley himself crashed, and so that's why the server was reset. So anyway, you can make your own conclusions from that.
I'm getting a Brenton Foley left the game message.
Yeah,
so
fair to say his computer probably crashed.
I think his computer had enough. I like that. Who was it who was dialing up for, or not dialing up, using 4G? Resist.
Yeah.
If it was resist to be out, I would have no hesitation at all, regardless of to direct the blame straight at Telstra. But it was a hardware issue. We would say for Foley without any better knowledge.
Well, lucky for him that it happened just prior to the race starting. The rule stipulating that any technical failure prior to the field making it to the start of the first corner on the first lap, a restart will be permitted. Once they get past that stage of the race, then that's just bad luck.
Yeah, similar to the rules you get in real life racing, where up until they are pretty close to up until they hit the start. You can, if you're working on your car and frantically trying to get it fixed, you can start from pit lane up until the race itself has started.
And it's fair enough.
Or you can, sorry, I should rephrase that. You can join the queue to start from the pit lane until the race starts. You cannot start. You cannot say, all right, I'm going to sit in the car paddock and fix my car. Oh, I'm done. 30 seconds before the race starts. I'll just start my laps now.
Well, it looks like Brenton Foley has made it back into the game. I think we just zoomed past him before, so we've now cycled through into another race session. 10 laps on the board, and we should start to see the guys gridding up very quickly indeed.
Yes, we've got just under it's showing just under a minute until first race. We've already got, let me switch the camera angle, we can see more than one car. We've got probably about 2/3 of the field already lined up, ready to go.
Yeah, we do. The leaders, of course, the tardiest. It appears Lewis Wedding and Ziras in no hurry at all, and I guess
Berto and Goofball also having also finishing their cuppers.
Finishing their cuppers indeed. Now this race, of course, will remind you, is starting with the same order that the previous race finished.
Bagsy looking a bit out of position there. Bagsy is, I'm not sure who it is who's the horn. Maybe it is Bagsy who's sitting right from the back.
He has moved forward. It's just reset him.
As
Sam Smith has just been collided with, and it was Goofball Antic by the looks of it, who ran into the back of him. So it was a light tap, so he shouldn't be carrying any damage.
Yeah, Sam Smith had a slow start, and everyone behind him checked up. Goofball, Brenton Foley.
Oh, Ziras has nearly spun the car around.
They do remember this is a warm-up lap, don't they?
Yeah, apparently no one told them. Do you want to take us through the grid there before we have any more heart attacks?
I will, yes. Starting on pole, as he has, is Ziras for Z&B Racing. Second is Lewis Wedding. Kept Ziras honest for the first part of the race, and will hopefully doing the same thing again in this race. Third is Sam Smith at Team Shed Racing. He had a quiet race after the two broke off, but hopefully he can jump on that slipstream. This is his favourite track. Hopefully he's got something up the sleeve waiting for race 2. Fourth is Birdo for Crowley Inc. Fifth is Goofball Antics. Had a, true to the name, had a very exciting race in parts of it. Sixth is Madbird for Nikon InGen R Technologies Racing. So long the name doesn't fit on my screen. Seventh is Brenton Foley, the sole entrant for PBF Race Engineering, who have been fairly dominant over in Automobilista Australia. Eighth is Roadhog for, I'm just going to shorten that to QVB.
Yeah, I think we will.
QVBV Racing. Decent Imagine, the other QVBV Racing car. Bagsy in the Brum. 11th is Resist, who will hopefully have learned some pace in that first race and maybe be challenging Bagsy and those in front for some pace. And Pablo, who is keeping the car clean, keeping the car straight at the back, but it's still good to have him here. And hopefully he's picking up some pace that will turn into high positions as the season progresses.
Yeah, well, he's certainly there to pick up any pieces from the guys up ahead of him if they go off the track, and they're showing every inkling of doing so. We've had a lot of offs, even in the warm-up laps for both these races.
Yes, it seems that they've got the focus point of when the green flag drops and the checkered flag drops. Everything outside of that is, we're not on Automobilista. We're having a GTA free roam session. We're going to do whatever.
Well, here they come along the quote-unquote start-finish straight and making their way to their grid spots, which indicated to the drivers by virtue of a red box. They don't actually show up on the racetrack itself, this being an American circuit. I'm assuming it mainly has rolling starts.
I was going to say, I couldn't see them on mine, but my graphics are dumbed down. But no grid starts, but they are all grid up, and the lights are lighting up now, ready to go green now.
Good start there from everyone, a bit of smoke, and doesn't look like anyone's been swamped the way we saw from Goofball Antics.
Yeah, Birdo almost swamped there. They're going 3 wide. Birdo Madbird and Goofball. Oh, they're getting very close. Everyone's keeping on track though. I say that, and Goofball had a bit of a wiggle while inside Birdo.
Well, good start there from Madbird. He's made his way up into 4th place. So Birdo relegated down to 5th. Goofball Antics with one of the QVP cars behind him. It was Desamaj. Looking down the inside, Desamaj thinks better of it. And off the track goes Madbird, letting Birdo back through. Birdo swoops back through up into 4th place. And Desamaj checking up Foley. This is all getting tasty here in the midfield. Oh, ho, ho!
Oh yes, it's 2 by 2 between 5th and 8th, and Bagsy's sitting there just licking his lips. They make a little error as they're potentially trying to go too wide here. He's perfectly positioned to. I'll potentially get up 4 spots here if somebody at the front has a boo-boo.
Yeah, there's every chance of that happening, but it looks like they've managed somehow to make it through. And Birdo up in 4th place, locking up. Can Madbird latch onto the back of him? Ziras leads the way from Lewis Wedding by 2nd place. Goofball Antics goes off the track there at the oak tree, and they all check up behind him. Huge number of offs in the background as well. It's 3 wide down the straight. Oh, goodness gracious me.
Just finding room, just almost sort of air nudging Desamaj across. Oh, he's just picked up slipstream though, and Goofball's on the other side. They're going 3 wide into probably the
Does he know he's there?
Dangerous section of the track.
Does he know he's there? Oh my goodness, Foley backed out of that, and it was a clever thing to do, I think. And Desamaj nearly wiped the nose off of Goofball Antics. Goofball Antics got in a little bit hot, checked up, and in the end, Desamaj gets a few car lengths clear, and so too does Madbird. So Madbird's taken this opportunity to make his dash.
That was. I'm going to have to stop and take a breath for a second. I'm already into my seat, and that was just the first lap. We've still got 9 to go.
A lot of beeping of the horns going on. I believe that's Goofball Antics. And down the inside at turn 1, and Foley mugs Desamaj on the outside. Oh, that's contact! Oh, huge crash! Huge crash! So that is ugly, and not the way we want to see that sort of thing happen. So looks like the stewards will be busy after this race. Let's catch a replay. And Goofball Antics going down the inside, and looks like he just lost it on the curbs, actually. Yeah, that's very, very unlucky, actually. I don't think he got any help in that.
I think he just got a wiggle on the throttle, and it snapped on him. He caught it, and he's over caught it and snapped back on him. And I think at one point there, Foley was on 2 wheels.
Yeah, it's just very, very unfortunate that there were 2 cars on his outside, so he wiped across them. In the end, it's given. Well, Desamaj got out basically unscathed. He's closed in on Madbird after that.
Yeah, there was some other contact around as well.
Ziras is off. Ziras is off. Sam Smith leads the race. What on earth is going on? Let's catch the replay. Here he was, pretty much on his own, leading the race quite comfortably by about 1.5 seconds from Lewis Wedding, coming up to the. Oh, he just got a little bit hot there at the right-hander off the track at the oak tree, and a very, very costly mistake. And somehow in that, Sam Smith has jumped ahead of Lewis Wedding and leads the race.
Yeah, I was going to just drop back to the back a second. I picked up an anomaly as Foley spins off the track. It's showing for me Foley is only having completed 1 lap. Sorry, to be on his first lap at the moment. He's showing as a lap down on the top 6.
So I wonder if that's because he was off the track and he's missed one of the checkpoints. Meanwhile, back in the lead of the race, Sam Smith defending from Lewis Wedding, trying to go around the outside at turn 1. The opposite of the move that he tried to pull on Ziras, and that's why he tried to do the inside in that previous race, because the inside just seems to have the grip. Sam Smith holds on.
Yeah, Ziras uncharacteristically sitting in 3rd and a little all the way back, but he's got the pace to gap it up on these guys and bring it to a 3-car race for the lead.
Yeah, I think Lewis Wedding wants to try and make his way past Sam as quickly as possible, because Sam is all sorts of out of shape, and because Lewis wants to try and put some distance between himself and Ziras. Meanwhile, Ziras is hunting them down like an angry shark.
We've had 2 cars jump out. Foley jumped out possibly because of the error with being a lap behind, and Roadhog also out, and we saw him drop. He had dropped back early behind Pablo. Whether he was having issues with his hardware at his end, or I don't know, his race not going to satisfaction, and he has also left the session.
Very disappointing. Those two become the first retirements of this season. DNFs for Foley and Roadhog. Now, Sam Smith under a huge amount of pressure from Roadhog. From Lewis Wedding. Lewis Wedding dives to the inside as they come up the hill, up towards the roller coaster. And who is the bravest under brakes? Sam Smith is marginally back, so he's going to have to be an absolute demon under brakes. Now, Lewis Wedding's got the tighter line on the inside. He gets the job done, and we've got our third race leader in 3 laps.
Yeah, Lewis had a bit of wiggle there on the exit, but I think Sam was keeping an eye on that and didn't push an issue. Gave them both a bit of a chance to let off, and possibly, I was going to say Sam was slower in the last race, but he might have something up his sleeve because he is having a go at Lewis again.
Yeah, down the inside, and this looks good for Sam Smith, fighting back straight away. Ziras is, well, setting the fastest lap of the race. That's what he's doing, so he's getting back into contention. This is going to be a 3-horse race very shortly indeed. Sam Smith, does he have the drive to get himself clear of Lewis Wedding? Lewis Wedding hangs it around the outside, gets the inside for the double left-hander, and Sam Smith, what sort of grip does he have? Can he drive around the outside, or is Lewis Wedding going to drive him out of room? Ziras shows up on the back of this battle like here's Johnny, but instead of Johnny, it's Ziras. Smashing his way through a door with an axe. And Sam Smith goes off the track there. That's awkward.
It's going to be a pass for Ziras. It dropped 2 wheels on the grass at least there, and that slowed him down. They very nearly made contact as Sam dropped in to pick up the slipstream.
This is all keeping the guys behind in check. Birdo's only a 1.5 seconds off this battle for the lead. Madbird and Decimo is still in the shot there, about 5 seconds adrift. So this is, well, if this ends in tears, someone unexpected could pick up a win here.
Yeah.
Oh, shower of smoke.
Well. Oh, yes. Oh, a little bit of a waggle there for Sam Smith. Going back to, I think with Brendan Foley having left the session, he can resume the role as the resident entertainment master.
Yes, well, Brendan Foley sending me a message on Facebook. Internet's fine, AMS has crashed. So technical issues continuing to get the better of Brendan Foley by the sounds of it. Sam Smith, what can he do? Can he hang on to this battle for the lead? Doesn't look like he's managed to, as Lewis Wedding has relinquished the lead to Ziras, but he's fighting back. It's side-by-side action once again, a little bit, and Ziras is going to emerge in the lead of this race, but Lewis Wedding's close enough to fight back down this roller coaster. It's been a roller coaster this race, 4 laps in already, and we've had Ziras fall back to 3rd place, fight his way back up to 1st. In doing so, in the in-between times, we had Lewis Wedding and Sam Smith both leading this race. Yeah,
it's been busy at the front, and as I said, they can only do this if they work together, and they have been for the most part. Sam Smith just dropping back slightly, but the way these two are battling at the front, I say that, and I think he's just within range now. But speaking of in range, Berto has been slowly cranking away the laps. He is not quite the pace to match these guys, but he is, with these battling, he is just nibbling away at the margin.
Well, while you were talking, Lewis Wedding retook the lead of the race. Oh, and Sam Smith getting into the back of Ziras there, and that is Sam Smith's challenge for the win, probably done and dusted. He's dropped position, Berto up into 3rd place and spins when rejoining the tracks. What utter disappointment for Sam Smith. Now it's just a 2-horse race with Lewis Wedding just barely in the lead of Ziras.
Yeah, Sam Smith helpfully parking it off the track while the cars are coming through, and has just executed a clutch kick turn and is back on the track in 8th.
Disappointing there. So Lewis Wedding did what he did to Sam to Ziras on this lap, just taking it around the outside of turn 1 and seemingly a move that others haven't been able to do, because you lose out in the marbles offline in turn 1, but he was able to carry just enough speed to still be alongside for the next left-hander and get his nose up on the inside, and that has kept him in the lead of this race. He's got a decent margin coming out of the oak tree, but that slipstream is so powerful. Ziras is benefiting, and he'll probably have the job done.
He's buzzing limiter on the down changes. They're getting it down. It's
that was exciting. That was exciting. Lewis Wedding took it so much deeper than Ziras there, and I thought for a moment, though, that Lewis Wedding would cut back, but Ziras just had a swapper on out of the exit.
Yeah, it was getting very cozy there again, and of the section of the track to do it, that's probably the one I'd least want to do. It's a really fast section. It's almost the almost very similar to the last sort of the third quarter of Laguna Seca.
Ziras is back up the inside. They're pretty much side by side as they enter turn 1. Does Ziras escort Lewis to the exit of the corner? What he doesn't want Lewis to do is what he did on the previous lap, is just maintain enough speed so that he gets the inside down here. I think Lewis is close enough. He is going to retake the lead, so Ziras can't get the job done. But Lewis goes wide on the exit. Ziras goes back up the inside. The tables have turned. Does Lewis Wedding get the inside through the next bit? Yes, he does. They're side by side again, but Ziras, with the preferred line, drives around the outside. Lewis Wedding with a swapper has to settle for second for the time being, but how much longer before he fights back? I don't think it's going to be very much longer at all.
No, the time being very little, because they are straights, and even with the kinks, he is nibbling on that slipstream, and yeah, the big long straight will be where we'll expect to see a lead change.
And meanwhile, Madbird and D-Smash having a spirited battle over third and fourth. We can't really see them because we're focusing on this battle for the lead, but there's not too much separating those two. They're about to appear just in the back of shot. Madbird keeping D-Smash at bay for the time being.
Yeah, just as close a battle, probably not just as close, but almost just as close a battle as they're having for the lead right now. Competitive racing happening up and down the field.
Well, here goes Lewis Wedding again to retake the lead of the race, and we've seen just how strong he is under brakes through this corner, and if he can...
Whoa! There's some wobbles happening there.
There is. I don't really think I can express in words what I just did with my noises, but that was very, very close to all ending in tears. And I'm glad it didn't, because we get to see it happen all over again. Now, Lewis, will he stay tight to the inside? Ziras was trying for it. Lewis said, "No way are you coming through there, mate."
No, Lewis is just slowly pushing across the track. Not so much obvious, but he has narrowed the gap down for him. But Ziras is going to try and hold it around the outside, and it looks like he might have been unable to succeed where Lewis did.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Ziras has the ability to drive it around the outside of turn 1 like Lewis does, and that may well pay dividends for Lewis at the end of this race. While we were talking, Goofball Antics set the fastest lap of the race, according to our timing screen. Now, was that actually his? Yeah, that was the fastest lap of the session, 2:01.8 from Goofball. So,
and he's currently sitting in 6th place, but he is right up now on the back of Madbird and DC.
Yeah, and that's
going to become a 3-car battle there.
That was about a 1.2 seconds faster than the pace that the leaders are doing at the moment.
Yeah, and it's just that's the case. Is he's got clear track to work with, while the leaders don't. They're I'd say rear grills, but they don't have rear grills on a Caterham, constantly on each other's back bumper.
There you go. Well, it's Lewis Wedding leading the way, but Ziras will get the slipstream. This is going to turn into a battle of strategy. Who has the inside coming down this back straight? Who has the lead coming out of the roller coaster? Because it seems to be swapping lap after lap, although Lewis Wedding was able to keep Ziras at bay the previous time around. What can he do on this time? We've seen Ziras try and make a move, and he's backed out of that wisely. I think Lewis is stronger under brakes into that corner.
Yeah, I made a comparison to Sandown earlier. It's similar in the same aspect that there is plenty of straights here. The slipstream kicks in.
Oh, Lewis is off! Lewis is off! He just tried to carry too much speed, and he goes spearing off the racetrack. How quickly things change. Lewis Wedding drops down to 3rd place. Birdo in 2nd, and that is that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Birdo, not really coming from the back, but he's Bradbury this one as well. He just kept plugging away at his race. Wasn't setting the race-winning pace, but he's kept the car on the track, and mistake-free, and he's looking at the silver medal right now.
Now we've got Resistors off the track. Madbird has had an issue somewhere because Goofball Antics, with his superior pace, has just absolutely destroyed Madbird and D-Smash, getting ahead of them, and Madbird trying to fight back, got a swapper on and fell out of that position down to 8th place behind Bagsy and Sam Smith. So the order completely turned on its head in the last lap and a half.
Yeah, I think Sam Smith recovering though. He was sitting 8th. He's I say recovering, but sorry, not mad, but Bagsy is just keeping himself in Sam's mirrors.
Yeah, Bagsy well, he was marginally quicker in the first sector of the previous lap, but he got a track cut on the last lap, so we don't really have a proper comparison for their pace. In terms of the fastest lap of the race, Sam Smith has him covered, but obviously he's not quite where he would like to be given the pace he was running earlier on in this race. Now, Berta doesn't have a response to Ziras. Ziras has just started banging out a purple sector after purple sector, 40 flat for Ziras, so he looks like he's on his way to setting the fastest lap of the race, having been relinquished from that battle with Lewis Wedding.
Yes, he's got clean air to work with now, and coming towards the end of the race, he's got full tyre grip and full tyre temp to work with, and he is. Berto he had the pace, but he never had the battle experience that Lewis and Sam have had with Ziras. So he was never really close enough to take a challenge anyway, and he's. I don't see him able to make up the gap of about 3 seconds now.
Well, fairly spaced out for a Caterhams sprint race by Apex Rear Wing standards. It would be Berto's best result of the series so far. His best result, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, 4th place, which he's managed to do twice. So 2nd place obviously trumps that, and he would become the 5th different driver to finish on the podium in this series.
And that'd be good to see as well. As I said earlier, it's a race where anyone can pull out the pace necessary to get onto that podium step.
So Goofball Antics, 4th place at the moment, and was running somewhere near the pace of the leaders. Ziras, though, has usurped him for fastest lap of the race.
Oh, Goofball dropping a wheel onto the grass out of turn 5, I think it was, and skipping turn 6 entirely.
Yeah, he's going to lose position here. Decimage swoops by up into 4th place, so that is a change of position for 4th and 5th. And Goofball Antics will be filthy with himself about that one.
Yes, I think at the moment, without any errors, I think it's fairly reasonable to say that the exception of Lewis, who is seemingly making some little gains, the top 3 or top 4, top 3 more or less inked up. Decimage and Goofball, though. Goofball has the pace to beat Decimage. Whether he's got the time to recover from that mistake, though, remains to be seen.
I think there's time. He's right on the back of him here. If he doesn't have a look at him down the into the braking zone for the next corner, he'll probably have a go not too far into the future after that.
Yeah, he's looking like he's going to have a go right now, actually. He's pulled to the inside just as the end of the straight.
Backed out of that.
Yeah, he's still got a lap to go, and he's shown before, as with the last race when he was coming up on the cars, he has the pace to pass them without needing to make a dive. So he can take his time with this one. He's still got another lap, another 5.26 Ks to get it done.
2:01.1 for Ziras, setting some splendid pace out front, and seemingly absolutely in control now. It seemed for the longest period of time like he wouldn't be able to break clear of Lewis Wedding, but now that he's got free air, he's able to, as Goofball Antics go down the inside at turn 1, and it looks like he's got the job done on Decimage.
Yeah, very measured dive. It wasn't quite of the quality of licking a stamp and send it kind of a dive. It was very he was still within the limit of his braking. There wasn't any wheels, and it was a very clean and very well done move.
Certainly was. And Goofball Antics starts to clear off into the sunset. Now Bagsy and Madbird, they're probably the closest two on the track. There's still about 2 seconds separating them, so short of a mistake from Bagsy, it's going to be hard to see how Madbird can make up any more positions, but that is the closest 2 race cars on the circuit.
Yeah, making up about 2 seconds in the next 4K is going to be a challenge unless Bagsy pops a wheel on the grass.
Well, our race leader, again, a very, very different race to the first race we've had, but he's going to end up with an absolutely perfect finishing record, 4 wins from 4 races. And as much as it was an absolutely sublime drive from him, we would like to see someone else win, but in the end, they're going to have to be better than this man, and at the moment, no one is.
No, he's had it. He had similar to race 2 last round. He had a good couple of challenges, but eventually they all fell away, and Ziras emerges at the top once again.
Here he comes to claim his 4th win from 4 races. Perfect 100 points. Started from pole position both times tonight, and race winner with the fastest lap as well. 2:01.1 was his fastest lap of the race. Here comes Berto to finish 2nd, his best result of the series. And following him home in 3rd place is Lewis Wedding, destroying that Caterham.
Yes. Yeah, very well earned 2nd for Berto there, just keeping it clean and proving that you don't have to be the fastest or the most flamboyant to get on that podium.
And Goofball Antics finishing in 4th place ahead of Desamaj. Sam Smith coming home in 6th place. Bagsy will take 7th place ahead of Madbird. Not too far ahead though. Madbird did close in on that last lap.
I think Bagsy had an issue somewhere, and he was not far off. Oh, not far off Madbird, who has just rolled his Caterham.
And Resist coming home in 9th place. Handy points for him and handy points for Pablo, with Roadhog and Foley failing to finish tonight.
Yes, the old adage to finish first you must finish, and Pablo getting some healthy points in the overall tally, especially over those who have not committed to a full season, like Nether and Brenton Foley.
Exactly right, and Roadhog, of course. So that's
Roadhog, yes.
That's 10 laps, well, 20 laps for the night. Virginia International Raceway. That's done and dusted. So, to update everyone on the point situation, Ziras leads on 100 points. He has 31 points of an advantage already over Lewis Wedding. So Lewis Wedding there on 69 points with 3 podiums, 2 seconds and a 3rd place. Probably would be a bit disappointed with the way that race ended, but probably encouraged by the way that the race went prior to the sorry, I'm distracted because Pablo seems to have got himself a post-race drive-through penalty, which won't actually affect his finishing.
That was, I believe, what happened there was he decided to finish through the pit lane at race pace, and obviously that's a bit of a no-no.
There you go. Well, that will affect his finishing time, but not his position, as no one's behind him. Just to finish off the points there, Sam Smith in 3rd place in the championship there, 6th place in that race, so he's on 58 points. Just 11 points back on Lewis Wedding. Foley, despite his DNF, holds on to 4th place in the... sorry, he doesn't hold on to 4th place in the championship. I have yet to reorganise the spreadsheet in order of points. So let me just do that, because Sam Smith has lost 4th place to Berto in the championship. So Berto moves up into... Berto moves up into 4th place. Foley has lost 4th place, I should say. He's down in 7th place, so that has been a very, very costly situation for him, with Madbird and Goofball Antics moving up into equal 5th place. And on countback, that would be Goofball Antics, by virtue of his 4th place, would be ahead of Madbird. Foley down in 7th, Desamaj in 8th place, Bagsy 9th, Resist 10th, Pablo 11th, Nether 12th, and Roadhog 13th. Well, let's have a chat to our race winner. Both races, very different races, Ziras, but you came under some pressure in both of them, and you've come out on top in both of them yet again. How did you do it?
I think precision is most important around Virginia. So you basically have to aim for every single curb. I noticed early on in the first race that Lewis was faster coming through the hairpin, the second hairpin, and I was much faster through the first section of the track. So it was a bit of ebb and flow for the first race, and then we obviously had a bit of contact, and it was done from there. Yeah.
So yeah, that was the first race. Yeah, we saw that contact at turn 1. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a strange one there. It looked like you probably just didn't realise he was there, and then that little bit of contact sort of put an end to the battle there.
It seemed more like we both oversteered, and unfortunately Lewis went a bit wider than I did and nudged the back of me, so we both went off the track, and I guess I won out on that, rejoining the track.
There you go. Well, congratulations on those 2 wins. In terms of race 2, we saw you made that mistake in the first or the second lap of race 2. What happened there?
I actually nailed my brake marker. I just let off the brake too soon, so I drifted wide and hit, and I was lucky not to spin it completely, and just I only fell back 1.5 seconds. And then, of course, Sam had passed Lewis in the same corner, so they battled out for a while and let me catch him.
Well, there you go. So it was a spirited battle, and in the end, it was a bit like the second race in Curitiba, but in the end, you came out on top.
Yeah, Lewis's pace was phenomenal on the second race until he had his own off. He understeered off the track in the last corner and gave it away. So other than that, it was a really good race.
Well, there you go. Let's bring Lewis into this race, into this interview, I should say. Second and third tonight, but you were in the hunt for the win on both occasions.
Yeah, probably the first race I probably wasn't quite fast enough. I think Ziras probably had about 2, maybe 3 tenths on me in the first race, and even though like I could obviously with the slipstream I was able to stay with him and even sort of battle with him for a little bit. Just him being just that little bit faster just made it difficult. And then obviously did have a move up the inside, and just lost the rear. I didn't lose the rear. I was sort of in the process of saving it, but because it was so close and both late on the brakes and everything, it was sort of made a little bit of a clumsy contact, and then that separated us, and then that was the end of race 1. And then in race 2, I was quite conscious of the gap. If it got above pretty much 8 tenths of a second, it was you didn't get the slipstreams, about 8 or 9 tenths of a second. So once that gap sort of broke out to that, I figured it was race over. And towards the end of the first lap, it sort of got out a little bit, and then obviously I tried taking a wider line in the double right-hander before the back straight, because that's how Ziras took it. So I tried something different, but I went a little bit too wide that time, and I didn't go off quite as bad as Ziras, but obviously lost out to Sam, but got in ahead of Ziras, and then battled with Sam, got in front of him, and then I think the mistake that probably cost me the race more than the one later on in the race was probably the one where I got ahead of Sam and I went off, or I got a little bit out of shape. Made a mistake again. That last sort of double right-hander, last corner there, and that just after I'd got past him, I had a little bit of a gap on him, and if I had a sort of held on there and broken away a bit, it probably would have given me a little bit of a gap to Ziras and would have probably helped me hold on, but. Yeah, it was good fun. I mean, me and Ziras were side by side in that second race for pretty much every lap until I went off, and it was just great fun.
It looked like it. Well, in terms of your battles, you seem to be stronger in different parts of the racetrack. You, especially at the end of that back straight, you seem to be absolutely mega under brakes there.
Yeah, I think I was just about 10 or so meters later. Well, maybe not 10, maybe 5 meters or so later on the brakes, and I feel I could pull it up. But I could pull it up, but it probably wasn't as fast as obviously what you could optimally be. But it obviously did help in overtaking. And then obviously Ziras was a little bit faster in certain areas. Like I felt, even though I did try a different line through that hairpin, I did feel I was maybe half a tenth faster there, and in one or two of the other corners. So it is interesting being obviously so close to someone pace-wise, and then you see that there's a bit of a difference in how we get our time.
Yes, it certainly is, and well, it was great to see such close fighting, wheel to wheel, throughout most of those races. Just unfortunate in the end that both of those couldn't go right down to the last lap, but it certainly puts us in good stead for the rest of the season.
Yeah, hopefully it continues throughout the season. Obviously happened at Curitiba, maybe not so much race 1, but certainly obviously race 2, and then both the races here. So hopefully it continues, and hopefully I can be on the good end of one or two of them.
Well, we wish you the best of luck in that regard. Just bringing into the conversation Berto, or Rob Dunt, best result of the series so far with second place in race 2 tonight. And Rob, tell us about your race.
Yeah, it was both of them pretty straightforward, to be honest. The first race after we got through Snake and after we got past Madbird was pretty quiet, to be honest. Just sort of held position from there. But then second race, pretty reasonable start. From what I understand, Bird got his line a bit wrong through NASCAR Bend. And then we cleared out, but it was a case of watching first Sam went off, and then there was a bit of a kerfuffle at Oak Tree. And then, down through Hogpen, Lewis seemed to run wide and understeer, and through we went. I was a bit fortunate.
Well, there you go. You still kept it on the track, so you're amassing a nice little haul of points there, and just 2 points adrift of Sam Smith, who, with that result, 6th place, and he's got 3 third places. So with your couple of 4th places, a 6th and a 2nd, you two are fairly close after you had some good wheel-to-wheel action last week.
Yeah, we seem to be pretty even in those cars, and Sam's a great driver, obviously. So pretty chuffed to be up there in a battle with him. But yeah, hopefully we can resume next week.
Certainly hope that can be the case. And in fact, we've got a couple of weeks break now until the next round. So handy little opportunity to point that out with next week, the guys, I think, doing a silly season type event with some of the gentlemen unable to make it. So 2 weeks until round 3, which will be well, it'll be very interesting. It'll be Roadhog's custom designed Place City Circuit, the name of that circuit. So looking forward to that one in round 3.
Yeah, should be magnificent.
Should be. Well, thanks for joining us. All of the interviewees, Ziras, Lewis Wedding, and Rob Dunt. Rhodey, what did you make of that? What did you make of round 2 of the Caterham Season 7 action from Virginia International Raceway?
Round 2 was some of the same, but some of the different as well. We got to see the reward that you get from just putting down clean laps across such a big track, and with Rob Dunt there picking up a 2nd in race 2. Ziras running away at the front, but Wedding showing that he's got the pace to keep up with him, and Sam Smith, if he can, he's only got a little bit more pace to go, and he'll be up there with them.
Exactly right. Well, that has been round 2 of the Apex Rear Wing Season 7. We will catch you in 2 weeks' time for Place City Circuit round 3. In the meantime, keep your eyes out next Wednesday for some more action. I believe we'll be releasing another video. We haven't yet decided what that will be, but nonetheless, keep your eyes out next Wednesday for that, and join us in 2 weeks' time for round 3.